Hello guys, welcome back to Naruto. As you can see in the picture today, let's start the story of what if Naruto got a lemon with Kushina. There. Everything went according to canon until Naruto was born. Kushina had a bad feeling that day. She felt with all her gut that something was wrong, but she thought that it was all because today she was supposed to give birth to the child she was so expecting. According to the plan of the top of Konoha, the Jounin, dressed in the form of the Chunin of the Cloud Village, were supposed to kidnap Kushina, and Minato, as a hero, was supposed to save her. And she, in turn, had to fall in love with him. But that did not happen. Kushina immediately realized that something was wrong, but decided to see what would happen. And after a while, Minato, like a hero, saves her. She immediately realized that this was a production. It was too easy for a genin who had just graduated from the academy to defeat 6 big guys. But she didn't show that she suspected anything. Immediately upon the return of Kushina and Minato to the village, the elders decided, for reliability, to put bookmarks on Kushina for loyalty to the village and love for Minato. But fate had other plans. Kushina's late grandmother, before her death, put a very powerful block on Kushina against bookmarks and the like. And when the expert from the Yamanaka clan bookmarked Kushina, they immediately slept because of the block. But he didn't notice. Kushina decided to play along with them and see what happens. Years passed, but Kushina did not let Minato get close to her. And Minato himself somehow did not care about her. He loved someone else. A girl from the Uchiha clan is Kiyomi Uchiha. One day, Minato was late for dinner and Kushina decided to play the loving wife and went to the Hokage residence. Arriving there, she heard muffled groans. She hid her chakra and went to the door to the office and, using Fuin, which for a while made a small section of the wall transparent only for her, looked into the office and saw how. Kushina smiled, because she did not let Minato come to her and did not even kiss her. Seeing this picture, she turned around and went home. She had dinner, went to bed, and did not forget to lock the bedroom door. In the morning, getting up at 5 o'clock, I went to prepare breakfast, and saw Minato sleeping on the sofa in the hallway. Having prepared breakfast, she woke up the sleeping Minato and they sat down to have breakfast. At the same time, Minato began to say that he wanted a child, although he didn't give in to him, but that was the order of the elders. Kushina agreed, but on the condition that she would self-fertilize. Minato didn't care, but there had to be a child and he agreed to it. And so our Naruto's birthday came. Kushina waited and loved him. She thought that he would become a support for her, would become her protector. Then everything is according to canon until the moment of Naruto's birth. The fox breaks out on his own and heads towards Konoha to destroy it. But Hiruzen pushes him out with his staff and begins to fight him until Minato arrives. Minato teleported to his girlfriend. Today she also gave birth to Minato's child. Seeing her boyfriend, the girl smiled. "Darling, we need to seal the 9 tails in our son," Minato said. Hearing these words, the Uchiha immediately activated her eyes. She will not give her own son to anyone. Why he? Better seal it in the son of this Uzumaki. Kiyomi said, "Darling, just think about it in the future, our son can become a legend. If he awakens the Sharingan, he will be able to harness the power of the fox." "That's cool," Namikaze replied and, sitting down next to his girlfriend, hugged her. "If I seal the 9 tails into Kushina's son, then she will live with me and I don't want that." Kiyomi began to think about the blonde's words. Having finished thinking about Minato's words, she agreed, but before Namikaze left, she said, "If anything happens to him, I will rip your head off." Minato teleported to Hiruzen. Seeing the blonde, the old man immediately put up a barrier. He was surprised. Sarutobi expected to see Kushina's son, but there was no time for words. Hiruzen began to form seals to summon the god of death. While he was making the seals, Minato and Gamabunta held the Kyuubi. A translucent, emaciated, tall ghost appeared behind Hiruzen. He had long white hair from which 2 red horns protruded. His eyes are yellow and his scara is black. His skin had a dark gray tint. The Shinigami wears a white kimono with very wide sleeves. He holds a rosary in his hands, and a tanto in his sharp teeth. Seeing the child on the altar, Shinigami immediately understood why he was called. His transparent hand pierced right through Hiruzen's body. He sealed the light half of the Kyuubi into the child, and the dark half into Sarutobi. Having done his job, the Shinigami disappeared. Before his death, Hiruzen asked Minato to take care of the village and the child. A red-haired girl was lying on a hospital bed. A small child was snoring next to her. After the bijou was removed, Kushina survived. Uzumaki blood saved the girl. Kushina was happy now she will have someone who will love her and protect her. While the girl was sleeping, 3 masked strangers appeared next to the girl. They silently took the child and disappeared. They appeared in a forest clearing and left the child there. They were on a mission to get rid of the child so that Kushina would suffer. This was Minato's order. Near the child stood 2 unknown people. The first was an old man, and the second was as straight as a huge closet. But only the shinobi's headband spoke of where they were from. What scum! They had the honor to throw the child away, the old man said with disgust, lifting the child from the ground. Let's leave. Iwagakure no Sato, village hidden in stone, aka Iwa, Kakurazato, located in Tsuchi no Kuni. As one of the Godaikoku shinobi, Iwagakure has a Kage as its leader known as the Tsuchikage, of which there have been 4 in the village's history. The rocky mountain ranges that surround the village are a natural fortress of which it is very proud. The village's infrastructure is built primarily from surrounding rocks and stones, formed into tower-like structures that are connected by a network of bridges. The Tsuchikage residence appears to be the tallest building with a cone-shaped roof and the kanji Tsuchi earth on it. 2 children were running along the road. The first was a 5-year-old boy with hair as red as blood, followed by a girl with black hair. Now they were heading to the Tsuchikage's residence, or as Naruto called him, to Oanoki's grandfather. They ran into the Tsuchikage's office without knocking and immediately jumped on Oanoki. The children started asking when they would start training, otherwise they were already adults. Oanoki, if you want to train so fiercely, then today we will begin your training, and taking the children in his arms, he headed towards the exit. Walking along the road, the villagers smiled at the village leader and bowed as a sign of respect. Naruto was Oanoki's grandson. Arriving at the training ground, Oanoki ordered the children to warm up and run 5 laps. Naruto and Kuratsuchi finished only half an hour later. The girl was all out of breath, but our hero still had strength. The brunette was surprised by his endurance, and Oanoki just smiled. The Uzumaki blood is making itself felt, thought that Tsuchikage. Oanoki, I think we'll finish the training here. Every day we will increase the load. The children just nodded in agreement and sat down under the shade of a tree. Oanoki began to tell them stories about shinobi. They sat like that until the evening, until the children fell asleep. Taking the children, he headed to his home. Getting up in the morning, our heroes did all the water procedures and, after eating rice and fish, they began to change into training uniforms. Taking the training scrolls, they headed to the training ground. Naruto and Kuratsuchi sat in a forest clearing and read a scroll. They were now studying chakra and how to awaken it. The 2 had already done their warm-up. Chakra is an integral part of even the most basic technique. Through various techniques, the most common of which are hand seals, chakra can be adjusted and manipulated to create effects that would otherwise be impossible, such as walking on water, breathing fire, or creating illusions, Naruto thought. Sitting in the lotus position, Uzumaki closed his eyes and began to try to awaken his chakra. The brunette was watching him. Kuratsuchi repeated her brother's actions. Naruto felt something warm in his stomach area. I can feel it, Naruto thought. The Uzumaki slowly began to spread chakra throughout his body. Naruto stood up from the ground with a smile on his face. Kuratsuchi opened one of her eyes, and immediately realized that her brother had already awakened a source of chakra. She sat there for another 10 minutes until her patience ran out. She screamed and started screaming that he was able to awaken and asked him to help her. Naruto, just relax and try to feel a warm glow around your stomach, Uzumaki explained. Kuratsuchi, thank you, brother, and sat down in the lotus position. The brunette calmed down completely. She sat there until she felt something warm. Opening her eyes, She began to rejoice that she had finally awakened her chakra. Taking one leaf at a time, they began to try to concentrate chakra in it. Kuratsuchi did better than Naruto. Due to the fact that Naruto has a large reserve of chakra, it was more difficult for him to control it. The brunette sat down under a tree and began to watch her brother. Naruto tried to take a little chakra at a time to perfectly hold the leaf. The Uzumaki could barely contain himself so as not to lose his temper. Beads of sweat began to appear on his forehead. He sat until the evening until he held the piece of paper perfectly. Getting up from the ground, he approached his sister, who was already sleeping. Taking her in his arms, he walked towards his house. Arriving home, he put Kuratsuchi on the bed and went to have dinner. Apart from them, there was no one in the house. Inoki was in the residence and was doing kage work. A boy with red hair tied in a ponytail, a round face and dark blue eyes was training at the training ground. Naruto is already 7 years old. All these 2 years Naruto spent time only training. I learned to walk perfectly on wood and on water, throwing kunai 10 out of 10. Almost all the time he trained alone. Kuratsuchi went out with her friends. Naruto took scrolls from his grandfather's office. Inoki did not mind that he took the scrolls from him, and he himself sometimes trained his grandson. When Uzumaki lost his temper, his hair began to levitate and was divided into 9 tails. Today was a special day in the Land of Stone. At 14 o'clock a.m. Delegation from Konoha was supposed to arrive. Now all the important people were in the office, and his grandchildren were sitting next to Inoki. Naruto and Kuratsuchi dressed in their festive clothes. Naruto was very interested to see the bloody habanera. He wanted to see his clan mate. When Naruto found out that he belonged to the Uzumaki clan, he rejoiced for 3 days. 3 people from Konoha entered the office. The first was a man of about 20 to 25 years old with ashen hair, and a bandage covered his left eye. A brunette with short hair walked in behind him. He was the same age as his friend. The right side of his face was scarred, and a protector covered his right eye. The last one to enter was a 25-year-old woman with red hair tied in a ponytail. She wore the traditional Konoha shinobi outfit, consisting of a green jounin vest. After greeting each other, they sat down at the negotiating table and began talking about a peaceful solution. All this time, Kushina looked at the boy with red hair. She was surprised to see a survivor from her clan. But what was incomprehensible to her? She felt something familiar in him. She noticed some similarities with him. She immediately dismissed the idea that it could be her son. He might just look like her son. Negotiations lasted 5 hours until both sides agreed to each other's proposal. Naruto and Kuratsuchi barely managed to stay awake there. They were very bored. The brunette already wanted to meet her friends, and Naruto was already impatient to talk with Kushina. Getting up from his chair, Naruto approached the woman and began a dialogue. Naruto, hello Kushina-san. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I am very glad to meet you, because we are from the same clan. Kushina, it's nice to meet you too, Naruto-kun. You can't even imagine how glad I am to meet you. I thought I was the last of the clan left, and ruffled the boy's hair. Naruto and Kushina talked until it was time to go their separate ways. Naruto was very upset. With Kushina he felt somehow different. When the elder Uzumaki hugged him, he felt a warm sensation. Kushina, we will meet again, and kissed the boy on the forehead, thereby embarrassing him. Naruto, when we meet, I will be a very strong shinobi, and smiled as if he wanted to say, 32 is not the limit. I hope so too, Kushina thought. Naruto stood up and washed his face. He went down to the kitchen and heated up the food. After eating deliciously, he discovered a note left from his grandfather. Letter. Good morning, Naruto. Today my subordinate will come to your training and will train you. From your grandfather. Naruto just smiled and mentally thanked Inoki for his new trainer. After putting on his workout clothes, he left the house and closed the door behind him. Arriving at the training ground, Uzumaki began warming up. 50 circles, 50 push-ups, 50 abdominal reps, etc. When Naruto was done with his warm-up, he sat in the lotus position and began to strengthen his chakra channels. A very large and fat man appeared next to Uzumaki. He has long black hair and good-natured eyes of the same color. On his head he wears a light burgundy bandana, into which the protector of his home village, Iwagakure, is sewn. He wears a pink suit with body armor. He wears sandals on his feet and wears a large yellow scarf around his neck. Hello, Naruto-kun. Now I'm your sensei. My name is Akatsuchi. The subordinate Tsuchikage introduced himself. Naruto opened his one eye and, seeing Akatsuchi, nodded and stood up silently. As I know, you already know how to walk on trees. So today we will check your elements and took out the chakra leaves here. I think you know how to use them. Naruto spent chakra and the first leaf closed, the second burned, and the rest of the leaves did not change. So I have fire and lightning, Naruto thought. Fire and lightning in our village, no one uses these elements, but I took scrolls with me and took out 2 scrolls. Hold it. You can begin your training, and handed them over to the interlocutor. Thank you, and sitting down on the ground he opened the first scroll. It had Raiden's techniques and the second one had Kato's techniques. Uzumaki decided to learn the techniques one by one. Naruto began to learn Raiden's technique, penetrating wave. The principle of its operation is that a flow of electrical energy is generated, which is directed at the enemy. Uzumaki began to make the seal's dog, pig, sheep, rat. Several sparks of lightning appeared on the hands, which disappeared a second later. We need to inject more chakra, Uzumaki thought. Raitun, penetrating wave. Uzumaki poured quite a bit of chakra into this technique. A huge wave of lightning appeared near Naruto and quickly rushed into the tree. After the equipment hit, there was nothing left of the tree. Naruto was surprised by the power of this technique. Uzumaki repeated the technique several more times to consolidate the result. The next technique was Kato demonic lights. This technique creates numerous small flying balls around the user, which eventually take the form of ghosts that attack opponents with their fiery power, exploding upon physical contact. Uzumaki learned this technique the first time. So, he studied the techniques until Akatsuchi appeared with 2 scrolls and a katana. Naruto, how was your training? The big man asked. Everything is great. I have already learned several fire and lightning techniques, came the joyful answer. I didn't doubt you. Here, I brought you a scroll with the taijutsu style of your clan and a scroll on how to properly use the katana. This is from the Tsuchikage, Akatsuchi said. Tell your grandfather a huge thank you, and taking the katana he began to study it. The shape of the blade of the katana resembles a checker, but its handle is straight and long, which allows the use of a 2-handed grip. There is no pommel. The slight bend of the blade and the sharp end also allow piercing blows, Naruto analyzed. It was already evening when Naruto put the scrolls in his bag and attached the katana to his lower back. Walking along the road, residents cast surprised glances at Uzumaki. It's not every day you see a boy with a katana. While walking through his village, Naruto heard sobbing sounds in one of the alleys. The Uzumaki rushed into this alley, thinking that someone could be beaten here. The first thing Naruto saw was a boy the same age as him with wheat hair and bangs covering his left eye. I thought there was a battle going on here, Naruto thought, and began to approach the boy. Seeing a stranger with a katana, the boy pressed himself harder against the wall and began to beg not to kill him. Naruto began to reassure him that he would not touch him and threw away his katana. Uzumaki sat down next to him and started talking. What is your name? Here I am, Naruto Uzumaki, asked the grandson of the Tsuchikage. Tsukuri no Deidara, and finally opened his eyes. You won't hit me? Naruto looked at the blonde with a look of pure incomprehension. He will never touch a defenseless and weak person. And Naruto promised himself that he would protect his village and its inhabitants. No, why should I beat you? He asked and raised one eyebrow. Deidara showed his hands. There were additional mouths on his palms. The blonde was already ready to hear an insult addressed to him and a disgusted look. But instead Deidara saw a surprised look, which is why Tsukuri, to put it mildly, was shocked, because everyone who saw the mouths on his palms avoided him. Cool. This is cool. What are you talking about? I would like these. What else can you do? Uzumaki admired. Deidara took out some clay from his pocket and formed several clay spiders and, throwing them on the ground, shouted, Cats! There was a small explosion, and Naruto was shocked he had never seen such techniques before. So how? The blonde asked with a grin. Deidara, you were great. I've never seen such a technique before. How about we train together? We're friends now, Naruto exclaimed. Friends? The demolitionist asked in surprise. Yes, why? Uzumaki answered and began to get up. I just never had friends. And you are the first one who made friends with me, despite my difference from others, Tsukuri muttered. Well, that's what friends are made for. Well, let's go, friend, and extended his hand as a sign of help. Okay, friend, and accepted help from his first friend. Attaching his katana to his lower back, Naruto and Deidara went for a walk. Walking around the village, surprised glances were thrown at them. The residents did not understand why this brat was walking with the Tsuchikige's grandson. Having said goodbye to each other, they went home. Two boys were training at the training ground. They looked 10 years old. The first was a blond man with blue eyes and long yellow hair, and his bangs covered his left eye. Next to him stood a red-haired young man with a handsome appearance and dark blue eyes. Naruto was sometimes confused with a girl because of his long hair, and his appearance was like that of a girl. During these 3 years, Naruto learned the entire academy program and learned the taijutsu of the Uzumaki clan. They found him a teacher who taught him the art of kenjutsu. I learned all the available techniques from Kato and Raitun, and also learned several sealing techniques. Naruto and Deidara were supposed to go to the academy only in a month, but Uzumaki had no intention of going there. He wanted to go to one place. Naruto and Deidara fought each other. They wanted to test what they had learned during all this time and test their strength. In close combat, Naruto attacked with quick blows, which the blonde could not dodge. Jumping away from each other, they began to make seals. Naruto released a huge stream of fire. Deidara responded to the red-haired technique with a wall of earth. The blonde created several explosive spiders and threw them at the enemy. Taking out his katana, Naruto imbued it with lightning chakra and began to destroy his friend's products. Deidara made several seals and used the Doton technique earth needle. The blonde sent a wave of earth at the Uzumaki, and then turned the tip of the wave into the tip of a needle. The Uzumaki made several incomprehensible seals and shouted Generation Shield. A transparent wall formed near Naruto. Deidara's technique was unable to destroy the Uzumaki's defense. Deidara began to attack with larger techniques. He created an anthropomorphic creature that was flexible and elastic, and could explode if the user desired. The blonde set his creatures on Naruto. With the help of Kato, Uzumaki destroyed all of Deidara's creatures. Naruto began to form seals very quickly, placing the last seal and shouting, Kato, demonic mirrors, Uzumaki shouted, and then formed a dome near Deidara. Give up or you'll turn into fried chicken. Deidara raised his hands indicating that he was giving up. He had already seen how this technique worked. Oh, I lost again. Deidara groaned and leaned his elbows on a tree. Well, next time you'll beat me, Naruto replied. Deidara, I have to tell you very important information. The blonde looked at his friend with a raised eyebrow. This concerns the academy, Uzumaki muttered, and then continued louder. In short, I won't go there. I'll go to training. I must become strong to protect my village. Deidara jumped up from his seat and began bombarding his friend with questions. He was very worried about him. Well, first I want to go to the land of iron to become the best in kenjutsu, and then I want to learn the hermit mode, then I want to drop by the ruins of my clan. The red-haired man answered one of Deidara's many questions. Well, what can I say? Good luck in your training, just don't die. The blonde said the last word with a grin. Don't get your hopes up, and after bumping fists they went home. Naruto headed to the residence, to his grandfather. He wanted to know if he could leave the village for a few years. Arriving at the residence, he was met by his secretary. After greeting her, he headed to the second floor. Standing in front of the Tsuchikige's door, Naruto exhaled and knocked. Hearing come in, he entered the office. Seeing his grandson, Inoki smiled and waved to him. But seeing the serious look of his grandson, Inoki became wary. The old man had never seen Naruto look like that. Naruto, is something wrong with you? Or do you need scrolls for training? Inoki began cautiously. Grandfather, I have one request. My fate depends on it, Naruto began from afar. And what kind of request is this? Sachikage asked. Let me go to the land of iron to improve my skills in Kenjutsu, Uzumaki blurted out. The Sachikage's eyes almost fell out. He did not expect this, but then he firmly said no. He was afraid for his grandson, you never know that he would be attacked. But why? The young man was indignant. I said no. What if bandits attack you? I'm worried about you. The old man raised his voice. So they argued until the evening, until Inoki agreed. But he had one condition, his Anbu would go with Naruto. Now Naruto was saying goodbye to his loved ones. Inoki told how to behave in the land of iron, and in other countries. Kuratsuchi, clinging tightly to Uzumaki's body, cried. She could not imagine life without him. Uzumaki stroked the girl's hair, calming her down. Deidara said that he would become stronger when he arrived. Kuratsuchi, promise that you will come alive, and looked into the guy's eyes. The Uzumaki smiled widely and hugged her tightly. Naruto, promising, but you also promise that you will become strong, and distanced himself from the brunette. Kuratsuchi, you'll see. I'll become stronger than you and take the post of Sachikage. Naruto laughed at her words and ruffled the girl's hair. Kuratsuchi was very cute when she cried. Our hero thought so. Turning around, Uzumaki ran towards the land of iron. He was being secretly watched by the Sachikage Umbu. Deidara, Inoki, and Kuratsuchi looked at the figure that was moving further and further away from them. The land of iron, Japanese, Tetsu no Kuni, is an icy, snowy country. Its political feature is that this country remains neutral and has never participated in ninja wars. In fact, shinobi have a rule set earlier that they will not interfere in the life of this country. Despite this, as they say, the land of iron has incredibly strong troops which are staffed by samurai, not shinobi. Naruto put on a warm jacket and pants and began to walk towards the temple. Approaching the temple, he was met by samurai. And they started, who is he? The purpose of his arrival, etc. Uzumaki replied that he wanted to become a master of Kenjutsu. Guard, we will escort you to Mifune-sama's office. And opening the gate, they entered the temple. Naruto walked along long corridors. Everything was simple and tasteful in gray colors. So they approached the office. One of the samurai knocked, entered the office, then came out and waved his hand, come in. Naruto entered the office, not to say that it was small and at the same time small. An old man with a long beard was sitting at the table. Naruto bowed. Naruto, hello Mifune-sama. I would like to learn Kenjutsu. Can? The old man looked appraisingly at his interlocutor. Mifune, well, hello Naruto Uzumaki. I have one question. What are Umbu doing here? Naruto said no need to worry. These Umbu are guarding him. Mifune, so, I'll give you a room. Tomorrow come to the training room at 6 o'clock. I will personally train you, since your fate is not easy now. Naruto, thank you. The next morning, Naruto got up at 5:38, took a shower and went to practice. Arriving there, he saw many of them, several groups of 20 people, with one teacher for each group. Naruto saw Mifune and ran up to him. Good morning Mifune-sama. I'm ready to train. Good Naruto. Let's start with a warm-up, run 100 circles, 300 push-ups, 100 presses, and 150 squats. We will increase every day 5 times. Then I will give you a wooden sword and you will practice swings in different directions. This will last a month. Naruto didn't argue and began to do what Mifune said. A month later Naruto pumped up his body a lot. Now Naruto was learning his reaction, looking for a comfortable stance. And he started wearing weights on his arms. Another month passed like this. Naruto chose a stance for himself. It was the most ordinary and, as Mifune said, it is not as simple as it seems at first glance. He could swing a sword weighing 100 kilograms for several hours, easily fought off the balls that flew at him not so slowly. A year and a half has passed. Naruto easily defeated teachers and even more so students. He had his own style, which consisted in the fact that the blows were unpredictable. He either defended himself or attacked unexpectedly, and it was very difficult to predict where he would hit. There is still half a year left before the final exam. The time has come for the Samurai Master exam. Naruto went up against Mifune. They bowed to each other and stood in stances. They looked at each other and Mifune could not stand it and ran towards Naruto. Naruto defended himself, and until he attacked, he remembered the enemy. The students and spectators watched mesmerizingly. It was like a dance. No one made mistakes. But then Naruto began to attack sharply. But Mifune is not so simple. He has a lot of experience. He did not easily, but repelled Naruto's blows. Naruto began to accelerate more and more, and so Naruto knocked the katana out of Mifune's hands. Everyone froze. No one had ever defeated Mifune. Even Madara only lasted 8 minutes. And here not only did 4 minutes pass, but he also won. Mifune walked up to Naruto and shook his hand. Mifune, Naruto, you are now a master samurai. Naruto, you are now a master samurai. Now we will go and forge you a katana. This completes your training. Naruto went with Mifune to the forge to give his blood, and the next day he picked up his katana. It was black as night, the sheath was the color of the eyes, blue, and the hilt was black and blue. After saying goodbye to Mifune, Uzumaki went to the land of the whirlpool. He wanted to know more about his clan. Over these 2 years, Naruto grew up. His height was 165 centimeters. His hair became even longer. He now wore black shinobi pants, black sandals, a dark turtleneck, and on top he wore a black cloak with a whirlpool sign. Yuzu no Kuni, country of the whirlpool, is the homeland of the Uzumaki clan. It was located on an island off the coast of Hai no Kuni. Naruto stood on the seashore, and he looked at the ruins. The coats of arms of the Uzumaki clan were visible on the ruins. Naruto went to the village. When he walked along it, he saw many old protectors and bones. Everything was destroyed. He walked up to the statue and looked at it. He felt strange around her. He had a feeling that he was overwhelmed with strength. Naruto made an incision in his hand and ran it across the statue. It lit up with a bright light and something clicked. Noticing a hatch underground, Naruto went down. When he went down, he saw the scrolls. Clan knowledge. Incredible. I can take it, thought Naruto. Quickly taking out his katana, he cut the kunai, which was flying straight at his head. Turning around, he saw 2 unknown people in an umbu mask, and next to them lay those umbu who were supposed to be watching Naruto. The umbu attacked the Uzumaki without a word. Naruto was simply toying with his opponents by imbuing his katana with lightning chakra. He removed it, thereby piercing the head of the first enemy. Naruto, now you. Instantly he found himself next to the umbu and attached a seal to his forehead that suppresses the enemy. Naruto spent the next 2 hours interrogating him. He asked what they were doing here, why do they need scrolls of his clan, etc. But the umbu remained silent until the last. When Naruto got tired of all this, he cut his throat. Leaving the village, Naruto took with him several important scrolls. In a small room there was a woman with blood-red hair. She looked to be 18 to 20 years old. Lying on the bed, she looked at the gray ceiling, and her eyes were lifeless. All these 12 years she was looking for her lost son. But there was no result yet when she met that boy from the stone. She felt something familiar towards him was too much like her. But Uzumaki could be wrong. Maybe he just looks like her son. She divorced Minato a long time ago. When she found out about her son's disappearance, Uzumaki was depressed. No one came to her to support her, except for her friend Makoto Uchiha. She had been friends with her since the academy. The Uchiha offered to move to her clan's estate. Kushina immediately agreed, because she didn't even have a roof. The villagers hated her because she could not contain the fox. Kushina wanted to run away from these glances. But where? She had no acquaintances in other villages. She could move to the same country of stone, but she did not want to live with those who destroyed her clan. The Uchiha clan treated her well. There were no angry looks. Some men invited her on a date or for a walk. Uzumaki tried to politely refuse, but there were people who did not understand the word no. With such people, Kushina used brute force. Yes, and she sometimes caught the lustful gaze of the head of the Uchiha clan. She knew that Fugaku had been in love with her since the academy, but the girl herself did not like him at all. Fugaku at one time had affection for her, but respecting Minato, he did not allow himself anything unnecessary. And his duty to the clan, the need to produce heirs, did not allow him to become attached to a non-Uchiha. But that's when Uzumaki divorced and moved to the clan estate. Fugaku tried to get her attention, inviting her to visit to learn more about her. Fugaku did not love his wife Makoto. He left only to continue his family line. And Makoto, like a fool, still thinks that her love is mutual. For Fugaku, she is just a thing. He uses it to relieve his stress. Having prepared rice and fish for herself, she began to eat. After breakfast she went out for a walk. Enjoying the walk, she sat down on a bench. Children ran and played on the playground, and their happy parents stood next to them. Seeing this picture, it hurt Kushina, because she also wanted to start a good and loving family. With such thoughts, she didn't even notice Fugaku, who sat down next to her. Seeing her look, the Uchiha immediately understood everything and decided to act. Feeling someone's hands on her shoulder, she shuddered. The Uzumaki turned her head towards the Uchiha. Seeing Fugaku, the girl only looked at him skeptically and removed his hands. Fugaku. Hello Kushina. How are you doing? Are you feeling well? The Uchiha wanted to show his concern. Kushina, I'm fine, don't worry, the girl said while watching the children playing. So again there was an awkward silence for Fugaku. Uzumaki didn't care at all. She was just enjoying the walk. Fugaku, Kushina, can we go to a cafe? For that, we'll scatter, said the Uchiha, fingering his fingers. Kushina made a thoughtful face, and Fugaku crossed his fingers and began to pray that she would agree. Uzumaki agreed. She already had plenty of time, but she needed to spend it somewhere. The Uchiha began to internally rejoice. The Uchiha invited the girl to the most expensive cafe. Kushina did not refuse. The Uchiha is paying the offer, not her. Kushina ordered coffee. Uchiha ordered tea with lemon. Fugaku, can Kushina help you? Kushina looked at him in confusion. Kushina, and how do you want to help me? The girl asked while drinking coffee. Fugaku, Kushina, I see that you suffer from a lack of male attention, and I can help you. The girl almost choked on her coffee after hearing the answer. She did not expect to hear such words from a married man. Kushina, Fugaku, are you okay? Do you have a wife and children? Yes, and I don't suffer. Fugaku, Kushina, I'm serious. I'm doing this for you because I love you, and I tried to kiss you, but the next second he was pressed to the wall. Kushina, I expected everything from Fugaku, but definitely not this. Never come near me unless you are afraid of losing your family, and she ran out of the establishment. Arriving home, Kushina lay down on the bed and fell asleep. Use more chakra, shouted a rather tall and muscular shinobi. He has small dark eyes, but they were large when he first appeared in the anime. He has hair of a rare ashy shade. He also has a small beard which was absent in his youth. Its distinctive feature is its rather large nose. He wears the protector of the stone on his forehead. The man himself is dressed in the standard clothes of his home village. He watched his students who were studying earth elemental techniques. When they didn't succeed, he helped or sometimes yelled. Kitsuchi himself was calm even when things got critical, making him a very good leader and wise shinobi. Dayton's stone fist. The girl covered her hand with stone, increasing the power of a regular blow. The stone plays the role of a kind of shield protecting the hand. The brunette hit the ground with all her might. Cracks appeared along the ground from the girl's blow, and a weak earthquake occurred. During this time, Kuratsuchi grew up to be a very beautiful girl. Her hair grew a little. The brunette devoted herself to training. She wanted to become stronger than her brother. When she was bored, Naruto always entertained her. And now that he was away, Deidara cheered her up. She was breathing irregularly in his direction. A young man of about 12 quickly made seals. Having made the last seal, he hit the ground and shouted, "Wall of mud." The blonde erected a barrier structure in the form of a wall, which prevents the enemy from penetrating beyond his boundaries. In 2 years Deidara became much taller. I improved my skills in ninjutsu and taijutsu, and he himself created several techniques based on his genome. Kitsuchi simply clapped. These kids were learning too quickly. They could be considered geniuses of their generation. Kitsuchi, well done. I think that's enough for today. Tomorrow after the academy they will be waiting here, and after saying goodbye, he left to go about his business. The blonde and brunette sat under the shade of a tree and began to communicate. They talked about their successes. Kuratsuchi, Deidara, what do you think Naruto is doing now? Deidara, I don't even know. There haven't been any letters from him for the last half a year. But I hope everything is okay with him. And don't forget the Umbutsukage next to him. Kuratsuchi, it's true. But I want him to finish his training quickly and return to the village, and put her head on the guy's shoulder. You don't mind, do you? Deidara, no, the blonde answered embarrassedly. So they sat and looked at a very beautiful sunset. Naruto summoning technique. Uzumaki found himself in an incomprehensible forest. He immediately felt that 4 sources of powerful chakra were approaching him. He sat down and rested his fist on his cheek and waited. After 5 minutes, the foxes arrived at his place, which surprised Naruto, because he had never heard about the call of the foxes. When the foxes arrived, they saw a man with red hair and dark blue eyes. And on his belt hung a katana. Uzumaki was dressed in standard shinobi clothes. Fox, man, what did you forget here and how did you end up? Naruto, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I arrived here with the help of a reverse call and ended up here, he said, spreading his hands. The foxes looked at Naruto inspectingly. Kaido, my name is Kaido. Come with me, Uzumaki, to our sage. Naruto walked accompanied by foxes, who were dressed in black armor with katanas hanging from their belts. All foxes were fiery in color, reminiscent of the Kyuubi. When they came out of the forest, Naruto had a view of a beautiful village that had different hieroglyphs and a statue that was in the middle of the village. Naruto looked closer at the statue and saw the Kyuubi. He began to wonder if the Kyuubi was related to these foxes. As they walked through the village, the foxes looked carefully at Naruto, who walked behind the foxes with titanic calm. After a 5-minute walk, they reached a huge palace made of stone. Fox, Kaido, what is a person doing here? Is he? She pointed at Naruto with her paw. His reincarnation. Kaido, perhaps, but now we need to see the sage. Sano, okay. And my name is Sano. Naruto simply nodded and said calmly, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto walked into the palace, where a fox the size of the Kyuubi, only with 8 tails, sat on a throne. The sage's eyes looked searchingly at Naruto, and Naruto's eyes looked straight into the sage's eyes. Sage, I like you just like him. What is your name? Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto, what about you? Hez. My name is Hez. You have entered the world of foxes. If you have questions, ask. Naruto looked into the sage's eyes and asked an unexpected question for everyone who was in this room. How are you related to the Kyuubi? I saw his statue here and read about him. It seems to me that he is not a creature that consists of nothing. Ichitsu, where did you see him? For you, he is not Kyuubi, but Karama-sama. His voice is angry. Naruto, calm down. I just read about him in a book. Hez, I see. Do you want us to teach you hermit mode? Yeah. Hez, okay, we'll teach you our regime. But first, you must learn our fighting style. Okay. How long will we train? Hez, 4 years here, but only 2 years will pass in your world. Well, do you agree? Yes. Hez, Sano, escort our guest to his room. The sage ordered his subordinate. A fox approached Uzumaki and took him away, leaving the pensive Hez. Is he really his reincarnation? Waking up in the morning, Uzumaki went to do water treatments. After washing, he went to the kitchen. They gave him steak for breakfast. Naruto was surprised. He did not expect this. He thought they would prepare something light. But they told him that this is their custom. Well, if this is their custom, Naruto ate the whole steak. The Uzumaki sat in his room for another 5 hours so that his body could completely digest the food. Naruto and Kaido arrived at the training ground. First of all, Uzumaki began his warm-up. His warm-up lasted half an hour. He stretched every muscle so as not to get injured. Then the fox began to teach him taijutsu foxes. Their taijutsu was contained within itself. This is a very difficult martial art to master. Its result is incredible reaction, physical strength, endurance, speed, unpredictable and very complex movements. But first Kaido wanted to test him in taijutsu. Getting into a fighting stance, they ran at each other. The fox moved very quickly and hit very hard and bitingly. Uzumaki already at the beginning of the fight realized that he would lose. Receiving a kick to the stomach, Naruto flew several meters away. Kaido, I thought you would be stronger. But it will do. Now we will start training. Naruto, okay Kaido-sensei. Kaido just smiled and nodded. 2 years have passed. Naruto trained his taijutsu. All this time Uzumaki's speed became faster. He wore weights on his legs. His height was 170 centimeters, now he looked all 14. Naruto and Kaido turned against each other. Kaido wanted to test his student's strength. The Uzumaki and the fox ran at each other. Having clashed in close combat, Naruto and Kaido moved at very fast speed. The Uzumaki jumped and took off the weights on his legs and arms. Instantly he was next to Kaido and began beating him. The fox couldn't keep up with Naruto and simply defended himself. But that didn't help him. With a kick from his shin, Uzumaki slammed his sensei. Naruto, that's it. Kaido-sensei, Uzumaki said with a grin. Kaido appeared in front of Naruto with a kunai and raised his paw to strike. Naruto didn't even have time to react what the Naruto thought. The next second, Naruto felt a strange sensation in his eyes. For Naruto, Kaido became very slow, he saw everything in red. Without wasting any time, Naruto moved to the side and threw Kaido aside. What was that just now? Naruto thought and took out his kunai. In the reflection he saw himself, only the eyes were different. Instead of dark blue eyes, there was a red whirlpool. Uzumaki began to peer, he couldn't believe he had Jujutsu. He noticed that his eyes looked like his clan's crest. The first thing he thought was that these eyes belonged to his clan. But suddenly he felt pain in his back and fell to his knees. He began to scream in pain, and bloody tears began to flow from his eyes. Kaido wanted to approach him, but 20 scarlet chains that flew out from behind Naruto prevented him. The chains began to destroy everything that was nearby. This continued until Uzumaki passed out. He really is his reincarnation, Kaido said to himself. Taking his student's body, Kaido headed into the room. After placing Naruto on the bed, Kaido went to the sage to tell him what had happened. Are you saying that he awakened Usugen? And 20 scarlet chains? The sage asked with shock. Kaido, yes, he's a San. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm pretty sure Naruto is his reincarnation. Do you remember his last words? Keizo leaned on his arm and began to think about Kaido's words. He remembered Izao Uzumaki's words. Before his death, he said that in the future his reincarnation would come to them. He would become the one who would avenge his clan and stop all wars. Izao was the first person to sign a contract with them. He remembered how they fought with each other until they lost consciousness, like crazy people. Haiso, when he comes to his senses, call him to me. Kaido, I understand. Opening his eyes, Uzumaki suddenly felt a terrible pain in his back. How it all hurts, Naruto thought, and he began to remember yesterday. Taking a sitting position, Naruto took the mirror that was lying on the nightstand, and he began to send a stream of chakra into his eyes, where 2 red whirlpools appeared in place of ordinary eyes. So this is not a dream, Naruto said to himself. Kaido walked into his room with a smile on his face. Naruto didn't understand what was wrong with him. Sitting down on a chair, the fox looked at Naruto seriously. Kaido, Naruto, you remember what happened yesterday? And seeing a nod, he continued, as I know, these eyes belong to the Uzumaki clan, but not everyone had this eye. Your eyes are called Usugen. Naruto, Usugen. He said looking at his reflection, but then he remembered Kaido's words. You said that not everyone had such an eye. Why? Uzumaki asked, looking seriously at the fox. Kaido, there was no need to interrupt me and hit Naruto with one tail, so only one person had such an eye. His name was Isao Uzumaki. You are the second one to awaken such an eye. But that's not all. You know who signed the first contract with us? Naruto, let me guess. And exactly, his name was Isao Uzumaki. Uzumaki said with a grin. Kaido, exactly. Before his death, he said that his reincarnation would come to us in the future. Naruto's eyes began to widen at the fox's words. Are you saying that I am his reincarnation? Kaido, yeah. I'm sure that you are his reincarnation. Your eyes and those scarlet chains say it all. Chains? I just don't remember anything after waking up my eyes. Kaido, yes, yesterday you awakened 20 scarlet chains, only Izao had those. Naruto, I see. Kaido, your training will begin after you recover. and headed towards the exit. Naruto will recover only in a month. Now he trained his eyes on the scroll. These scrolls were left by Uzumaki Izao himself. Naruto learned that Usagen allows him to anticipate his opponent's movements, see and control his chakra, and can create an armored warrior. Not everyone can create one. Naruto and Kaido fought in close combat. Uzumaki dominated his opponent. He predicted all of Kaido's movements. Grabbing his opponent's wrist, Naruto twisted him and pinned him to the ground, and topped him with his knee. Kaido said that he was wondering, and Uzumaki let him go. Kaido, well done Naruto-kun. Shaking off the dust from his clothes, the fox said, now let's try to control the chains, and maybe we'll create another warrior. Naruto walked 20 meters away from his sencha to avoid damaging it. Naruto began trying to awaken the chains. So he tried until 5 scarlet chains appeared from his back. For the first half an hour he was unable to control the chains, but then he managed to take control of several chains. Half a year has passed. Naruto could already control all 20 chains perfectly. Now Naruto was trying to create a type of warrior. No matter how many times he tried, he failed. Seeing his failures, Kaido advised him to switch to hermit mode already. He already had little time left. Naruto promised himself that he would create a warrior. Naruto sat in the lotus position and began to collect some chakra. Kaido stood next to him, making sure that his student did not turn into stone. Orange pigmentation began to appear around Naruto's eyes, and black ears with black tips appeared on his head. But when fur and a tail began to appear on him, Kaido hit him with a special stick that knocks out the sun chakra from the body. Naruto, that hurts. Uzumaki shouted, holding his head. Was it necessary to beat me? Kaido, yes. If you absorb a lot of natural chakra, you will turn into stone. Naruto, I see, Uzumaki said displeasedly. Naruto sat on the plank and balanced. Suddenly, he opens his eye and there was a fox-like elongated pupil, and black ears with red tips appeared on his head. Standing up from his seat, he looked at Kaido. A proud smile appeared on Kaido's face and he began to clap. Kaido, Naruto, you're great, you learned hermit mode in a year and a half, that's amazing. Even Izao took longer to learn the routine. But now you need to go to the sage. Naruto, I understood you sensei, and ran to the palace. Arriving at the sage, Naruto said that he had learned hermit mode. Hiso praised Naruto. Looking at Naruto, Hiso saw a young Izao. Hiso, Naruto, you understand that your training is over, right? Yes, Hiso-san. As I promised, if you learn the hermit mode, then I will allow you to sign the contract, and summon the scroll to sign. Taking the scroll, Naruto bit his finger and began writing his name in blood. Having signed the scroll, he began to fold the seals. After folding the last seal, he hit the floor. A fox appeared in a white haze, with 7 tails, red armor on it, and twin swords hanging on its back. Hiso, lucky you. He is one of the strongest foxes in our village. Fox, my name is Era. Now I am your personal call Naruto-san, and bowed in honor of respect. Naruto. Nice to meet you, Era. I think you and I will become better partners. Naruto started to get ready. Having gathered, he began to say goodbye to everyone. Kaido approached Naruto and held out a black cloak with red flames, and on the back was the kanji of a fox Sannin. Naruto took the cloak and put it on, then thanked him for the gift. Having folded the seals, he disappeared into a white haze. Today was a beautiful sunny day. The sun was shining easily and naturally illuminating everything around. It was not as hot as in summer, but it was not as cold as in winter. A light breeze was blowing, indicating that it was autumn and winter would soon come. Although the winter was not as cold as in the land of frost, where it is always cold and there is snow, it was not as warm as in the land of air, where there is desert everywhere and sometimes there are oases. There were several people in the Hokage residence. Sitting on a large chair was a blond man. Minato's costume consisted of the standard Konoha uniform, with 2 stripes on each sleeve, a green flak vest, a blue protector, and sandals of the same color. On top, he wore a long white cloak with short sleeves over his suit, a high collar, decorated around the edges with red flames from the kanji on the back of the Yondaime Hokage. Not far from him was the 7th team. It included Kakashi Hatake, Kushina Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, Menma Namikaze, Uchiha, Sasuke Uchiha. Taking the scroll out of the nightstand, Minato handed it to the ash-haired man. Taking the scroll, Kakashi opened it and began to read the essence of their mission. Kakashi, the essence of our mission is to escort the merchant to the land of mist. The genin were delighted. They were already tired of cleaning up after the cats, going shopping with the daimyo's wife, catching dogs and cats. Kakashi in an hour near the village gate and don't be late and disappeared. Who would talk? Thought Uzumaki, and left using Shunshin. The genin began to leave the office and headed home to collect all the necessary things. Having gathered near the gate, the team began to wait for the customer. Menma, Kushina-san, why didn't you take the necessary things? If you don't have a tent, then you can sleep with me and wink. The Uzumaki winced at his words. Inside, she was seething with rage. If he were not the son of this rooster, she would have torn his balls off. She silently showed the seal on her wrist that she had sealed all her things. Menma released his gaze. That's Dosita, thought Namikaze. A tall man approached them. His long hair had a strange greenish tint. He has fairly thick eyebrows and large eyes with wide blue pupils. Its distinctive feature is its fleshy lips. He is wearing a sleeveless shirt consisting of bandages. Over this he wears a purple vest with yellow trim. His feet are wearing gray pants and blue sandals. Raiga's hands are wearing gloves. Approaching his companions, the man looked at everyone appraisingly. His gaze settled on the girl. He looked at her from head to toe. I need to get to know her, the man thought. Kakashi, I think you're Raiga Kurisuki? Raiga, yes. If it's not a secret, what are all of you names? I must know the names of those who protect me. Kakashi. His name is Menma Namikaze Uchiha and pointed to the brunette. Her name is Haruno Sakura. Pointing to the pink-haired one, said Hataki, this is Sasuke Uchiha, and pointed to the young man who stood next to Sakura. My name is Kakashi Hataki, and Kushina is Uzumaki. Kushina means Raiga said to himself. After shaking almost everyone's hands, he extended his right hand to Kushina. Uzumaki shook his hand and wanted to sit back, but the man held her hand tightly. Raiga, you have such beautiful skin, milady, and kissed her hand. Kushina could no longer restrain herself and hit him with all her strength. Raiga slammed into the ground. The Konoha shinobi have been walking into the fog for the whole day. They did not stop only when they needed to rest or have a snack. Kakashi and Kushina noticed a puddle on the ground. It hasn't rained for a long time, the mentors thought. Walking past the puddle, two demon brothers climbed out, and they began to threaten them or simply hand over the old man. But having received an insult instead of an answer, they ran towards Kakashi and tried to kill him. A second later the enemies fell, which is why they were bound in chains. Having tied them to a tree, Kakashi began to torture them with the help of the Sharingan. Gozu and Meizu held out until the last. Gozu and Meizu committed suicide by blowing up their seals. Kushina, well, what did Kakashi find out? Kakashi, nothing. They blew themselves up and pulled the bandage over his left eye. Without talking much more, they set off. Kakashi walked from the front, Menma and Sasuke stood on the sides. Sakura walked next to the customer. Kushina walked from behind everyone. Raiga stood next to the girl. Walking along the road, Raiga looked at Kushina with a bewitching gaze. The man had never seen such beautiful girls. Kushina just fell into his heart. When Raiga wanted something, he always achieved it. Kushina walked and ignored him, but her hands were itching to hit someone. Raiga, Kushina-san, maybe after the mission we'll go somewhere. I will show you all the beautiful places in my village. Kushina, sorry but no. When she spoke, there was not a drop of emotion on her face. Raiga scared with displeasure, but he will still have a chance. When night fell, they decided to rest because Raiga was tired and his legs were already hurting. Kakashi gave his tent for one person. The genin also opened their tents. Having opened her tent, Kushina was about to get a good night's sleep, but she saw that Raiga had nowhere to sleep. Exhaling in defeat, she invited him to her place. Raiga immediately agreed. Kushina turned in the other direction and began to fall asleep. Raiga was looking at the girl's graceful back at that moment. So he watched until 2 hours had passed, and Raiga began the plan to steal the filly. He felt a very strong pressure behind him. Turning his head, he saw Kushina. She looked at him with a withering gaze, several chains flying behind her. The customer swallowed nervously. Raiga, Kushina, it's not what you thought, the man said as he put on his panties. Kushina, I already knew that you would throw something in my direction, and grabbing him by the hair, she began to beat him. Raiga met the girl's knee with his face. Then he received a kick to the kidney. She held him in chains and beat him like a punching bag. If you look at me or do anything like that again, I will kill you, and threw him out of the room. In the morning, the Kanakavites woke up in a great mood. But Raiga was not so happy. He did not sleep all night. You could see huge bruises on his face from the blows. The genin began to ask what happened to him, but he answered that he just fell. He didn't want to embarrass himself because he was beaten by a girl. Kakashi immediately understood everything and simply remained silent. He knew the character of the Uzumaki. Having cleaned up after themselves, they ate and went to continue their mission. There were still 20 hours left to go to the land of mist. Walking along the road, they did not see a single robber. Yes, and Raiga behaved strangely. The mentors felt danger over their heads. They immediately knocked down their genin. A huge sword crashed into a tree, and a shinobi stood on it. He was covered in bandages and had a crossed-out mist protector on his forehead. A slender man appeared next to the shinobi, whose height was almost equal to the size of his sword. He wore a dark, tight-fitting, sleeveless shirt with 2 light stripes on the chest, a striped belt, and light-colored pants. Like all his comrades, his neck is bandaged. In addition, bandages also covered the swordsman's ears. Like all 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure, the teeth were sharpened. There were no eyebrows, there was a cross-shaped scar on the right cheek, and the eye sockets were clearly visible. The part of the face along the swordsman's jaw was covered with a peculiar pattern consisting of white and black stripes. Kakashi began to examine the new guests. 2 swordsmen of the Mist Well. We were unlucky, Hataki thought. Kushina immediately ordered the genin to hide behind her, saying that they couldn't handle it. Kakashi immediately noticed that the customer was missing. He had already begun to understand that they had been set up. Raiga appeared next to the swordsman. The genin started yelling about what he was doing, a traitor, so that he should die. Uzumaki looked at him with hatred. Juzo took out a case with money and handed it to Raiga. Juzo, thanks for the work, Raiga. Now you can leave. Having counted the money, he ran away from the battlefield. Jumping down to the ground, Zabuza looked at his rivals with a grin. Zabuza, copy, give us that red-haired one, and pointed to Kushinan, the Hokage's son, and we won't kill you, maybe. Kakashi, won't your lip crack? You won't dare touch my comrades, and raise the bandage, showing your Sharingan. Zabuza, we asked you kindly, now only death awaits you. And taking his sword tightly, he rushed at Kakashi. Juzo took his katana and ran towards the genin. Kushina appeared in front of him. Kushina, I am your opponent, and printed my tanto. Kakashi began to fight Zabuza. Zabuza was a master in kenjutsu, but that didn't help him. Kakashi and Zabuza fought on equal terms, parrying the kunai. Zabuza ended up next to Kakashi, and with the back of his sword, threw Hataki back several meters. Zabuza, great copy ninja LLC is losing to me, the swordsman said with a grin, you're just a weakling, whom the fog swordsman himself is about to kill, and began to make seals, Suetun water needles. The swordsman fired sharp water bullets. Kakashi abruptly moved to the side and began to stand up, and very quickly he began to make seals. Hataki used Raitun lightning ball. The ninja formed a sphere-shaped form of lightning chakra. Let's see what you do against this technique, and shot at the enemy. Zabuza, this is a technique that won't do anything to me. With the help of his huge sword, he redirected it towards the genin. Kakashi's eyes widened in horror. He ran towards his students. Hataki understood that he would not make it in time, and already imagined how he would look into the eyes of the parents of the victims. Juzo moved very quickly. Kushina couldn't keep up with her opponents. Back pain prevented him from using the bijou chains. Noticing a huge lightning that was flying towards her students, she wanted to save them. Kushina was closer to them, but Juzo grabbed her by the hair and pinned her to the ground. Kushina, go away, Uzumaki shouted, but the next second she was knocked out. The genin were shaking in fear. Each of them could not move. They closed their eyes, and they prepared for their death. A stranger appeared in front of the genin. "Stranger, don't be afraid. I will save you." A young man of 16 years old appeared in the clearing, with hair as red as blood. His height was 179 centimeters. He had a katana on his belt. He was wearing black shinobi sandals, black pants, and a black turtleneck, and he was wearing a black vest. On top he wore a black cloak with red flames. Uzumaki began to look at where he appeared. He turned on his sensory abilities. You never know. They are watching him. Uzumaki began to scan the entire forest area and felt a huge accumulation of chakra in one place. This is chakra, is it really it? Naruto thought and ran in the direction where he felt the accumulation of chakra. The first thing Naruto saw was a girl lying on the ground and a man hovering above her. Uzumaki immediately realized who the girl was and began to get angry. He immediately noticed a small sphere of lightning that was flying towards the teenagers. Here are the weaklings and how they became genin, Naruto said to himself. And quickly finding himself in front of the genin, he extended his right hand, from which seals flew out, and simply sealed it. Seeing the new guest, the swordsmen and Konokovites were surprised. Shinobi from Konoha immediately became wary. You never know that he was an enemy. If he is our enemy, then this is bad, Kakashi thought. And suddenly he found himself next to the genin. Hatake started asking who he was. Why did he protect? Naruto? Calm down. I'm not your enemy. If I were an enemy, I would not defend. And yes, hello Kakashi-san. Kakashi began to peer at his ally. He definitely reminded him of someone. Hatake immediately caught flashbacks to when he was in the Land of Stone. Kakashi, really? Are you Naruto Uzumaki? But how? You look like you're 16. Well, I was in the summoning world and trained there. And their time moves differently. Kakashi, I see. It will be good if you help us. Naruto, that's why I came. I'll take it, and looked at Juzo, and you take Zabuza. The genin silently watched their conversation. They were a little surprised that Naruto would fight one-on-one with the swordsman. Juzo, grandson of Tsuchikage, and also Uzumaki, they will pay a lot for your head and kicking the girl's body. He threw her back several meters. Naruto became angry and his hair began to levitate. He will not allow his clanmates to be offended. Taking out his katana, he found himself next to the swordsman. And very quickly he began to strike. Kakashi gave the order to the genin to take kushina and retreat to a safe place. He imbued the kunai with lightning chakra and ran towards Zabuza. The two opponents began to fight. The swordsman dealt very strong blows. Hatake could barely hold back the huge sword with his kunai. Only with the help of the Sharingan could he fight on equal terms with him. Naruto moved very strangely for Juzo. The swordsman could not predict the Uzumaki's attacks. The Uzumaki struck with such anger and force that Juzo almost broke his wrist. His katana began to slowly crack. I won't be able to hold out with him for long, the swordsman thought, and walked away a few meters. Juzo, you really are very strong. But now I will show you why I am part of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Sueton huge water projectile, a large amount of water splashes out of my mouth. Naruto quickly made several seals and blew out a huge ball. The two techniques collided and began to fight each other. The Uzumaki technique destroyed the water projectile and flew towards the enemy. Juzo quickly walked away. Having soaked his legs with chakra, he rushed towards Uzumaki. Kakashi, Raiton lightning dog. Hatake released charged lightning release chakra, which took the form of a dog and quickly began to overtake the enemy. Zabuza jumped to the right. He was badly battered. Several shallow wounds can be seen on his body, and the copy man himself didn't look perfect. During these half an hour, they inflicted several deep wounds on each other. Zabuza, dissolving into the mist. Watch out, Kakashi. Hatake could only see Zabuza's silhouette. Zabuza began his little rhyme, where should I hit? Maybe in the liver? Maybe in the heart? Maybe cut off my legs and arms? And started laughing like a psychopath. Sensing danger, Kakashi placed his kunai in front of him, thereby protecting himself. This went on for about 20 minutes until an idea came to Hatake's head. All this time Zabuza was playing with his opponent. I think this technique will help, Kakashi thought, and called several of his dogs and ordered them to find Zabuza. Zabuza Hahaza, this will not help you. I will now send them to the meat processing plant, the swordsman said with steel in his voice. Zabuza found himself next to Kakashi and wanted to swing, but someone grabbed him. When he released his gaze, he saw several dogs that immobilized him. Zabuza tried to throw the dogs out of himself, but he couldn't. Here you are, and began to create an electric charge on his hand. Your time has come, Zabuza, said Kakashi, and ran towards the swordsman. Zabuza heard the singing of 1,000 birds. What kind of technique is this? But I need to get out faster. And he was about to throw the dog off. Kakashi appears in front of him with a chidori and strikes him in the heart area. Zabuza's body will fall to the ground like a rag doll. Naruto spins his opponent into the ground. Juzo made the biggest mistake. He went into close combat with Naruto. Uzumaki is very strong in taijutsu. Juzo simply did not have time to defend himself, and Naruto simply did not allow him to attack. That's why he paid the price. Naruto, now you will regret that you touched my close friend and twisted his hands. The crunching of bones was heard. Juzo asked to let him go. He felt like his arm was going to break. He was afraid of nothing except death. That's why he asked to be released. Naruto, I won't let you go, you'll suffer. And broke both his arms. A cry for help was heard throughout the forest. All this time, the genin watched their fight with their mouths open. They were very surprised by Naruto's strength. He won the swordsman without any technique. Naruto, I will take you with me, and sealed Juzo in a scroll. Approaching the genin, Naruto and Kakashi walked away a few meters. Kakashi thanked Naruto for his help. Kakashi and the genin had a sleepover. Hatake needed to fill his chakra reserve. And Naruto stayed with them, saying that suddenly they would be attacked, and he would help them. Menma and Sasuke lit a fire, and they started roasting rabbits. Uzumaki refused to eat. They sometimes talked to each other. Sakura spoke most of all. She asked, what is there in the land of stone? What attractions are there? Uzumaki answered her calmly. Opening her eyes, Uzumaki suddenly felt a terrible pain in her head. She slowly began to remember. Suddenly standing up, she began to look around. This is my tent, so everything is fine with me, Kushina thought. And hearing the voices of her comrades, she exhaled with relief. Coming out of the tent, Kushina found all her comrades near the fire. But next to them sat a red-haired stranger. She did not see his face. Is it really Uzumaki? The thought flashed through the girl's head. Kakashi invited Kushina to eat. Sitting down next to the stranger, Uzumaki began to eat. All this time they were silent. Kushina, hello? Who are you exactly? Naruto turned to face her and smiled with 32 teeth. Kushina's eyes widened. In surprise, she already realized who was sitting in front of her. Uzumaki did not jump on him with hugs. How she wanted to see him, but she didn't have time. Kushina, I'm so glad to meet you, Naruto-kun, and distanced myself from him. Naruto, and I'm glad too. Kushina, maybe you can explain why you look older than your age? I'm looking at a guy, the girl said. Naruto began to tell him that he left the village for training. He trained in the land of iron and then studied in the world of summoning. Kushina, I think you have become very strong, the girl said with a smile. They talked like this until it was time to sleep. Kakashi and the others were surprised. All this time they were silent and listened to them. They noted that the two were very similar to each other. Opening his one eye, Uzumaki noticed how the girl was trembling from the cold. Naruto lay down next to her and hugged the girl tightly. Uzumaki was surprised by this, but she liked the way he hugged her. He was so warm, Kushina didn't want to leave him. Naruto, you don't mind, do you? Kushina, no thank you, Uzumaki said with red cheeks, and she began to press herself against the guy's body. In the morning they woke up from Sakura's screams. They say a snake crawled into her tent. After breakfast they said goodbye to each other. Near the village gates, guards were patrolling. Their main responsibility is to check guests from another country. In the land of stone, the weather was very hot today. The guards wore hats so that God forbid they get sunstroke. A figure appeared on the horizon. One of the guards began to squint. When the figure was not so far away, one of them saw a young man with red hair. The first thing the guards thought of was Naruto. Walking towards the gate, guards approached Naruto, and they started asking who he was, the purpose of his arrival. Does he have dangerous weapons? Naruto, don't you remember me? It's me, Naruto Uzumaki. Guard, forgive us, Naruto-san, but you are very difficult to recognize. You have changed so much. I think that Tsuchikage will be glad to see you. He's been wanting to see you for a long time. And the Uzumakis missed. Naruto headed to the Tsuchikage's residence. Along the way, people cast surprised and loving glances at him. Some of the residents recognized him as Naruto and greeted him. Having reached the residence, he began to climb to the second floor. Uzumaki entered the office without knocking. In the office there were people such as Kuratsuchi, Deidara, and Inoki. Over the course of 4 years, Deidara and Kuratsuchi have changed a lot. They graduated from the academy and became genin. For the first 5 seconds they looked at each other. The brunette immediately realized who was standing in front of her and ran towards him with happy tears. Then Inoki and Deidara came to their senses. They stood like that hugging for about 10 minutes. Then they started bombarding Naruto with questions. Uzumaki answered their questions with a smile on his face. He did not forget to tell about the fight with the swordsman. His story lasted more than 2 hours. Naruto told all the details and little things. Inoki, where is the scroll? He will help us during negotiations with the fog. Naruto so, and having printed the scroll, he gave it to his grandfather, and yes, grandfather, you can change my age in the documents. I am spiritually and physically older than my age. Inoki, okay. I would like to test your strength. Come to our training ground tomorrow. After the battle, we will find out your rank. Naruto nodded and headed towards the exit, followed by his sister and Deidara. These 3 walked until nightfall. Kuratsuchi and Deidara showed what new things had been built in the village and told stories. Uzumaki also learned that his sister was already in a relationship with Deidara. Naruto wasn't against their relationship, but he made the blonde promise that he will always protect Kuratsuchi. After preparing myself breakfast, Naruto did his warm-up before the fight. Closing the door behind you, Uzumaki headed to the training ground. Arriving there, he saw his grandfather and 2 ninjas. The first was a long-haired blonde with brown eyes. The length of her hair is such that it reaches her waist. She wears the standard stone uniform, with her head protector attached to her head, and she wears voluminous earrings in her ears. A bald and muscular shinobi stood next to the girl. Inoki said that he needed to defeat Rabi and Iweso. Taking a fighting stance, they first exchanged glances. Rabi, just know that we won't feel sorry for you. We don't care whose grandson you are. Naruto, your tongue is too long, and began to tease the girl. The girl could no longer stand and rushed towards Uzumaki. No matter how hard the girl tried, she couldn't even hit him. Catching her right hand, he threw it towards her partner. Iweso caught the girl and put her on the ground. Iweso ran towards the enemy. The ground began to crack under his feet. It will be more difficult with him, Naruto thought. Iweso suddenly found himself in front of Uzumaki and hit Naruto with all his might. The Uzumaki flew several meters away. He almost broke my rib, Naruto said to himself. Rising from the ground, Naruto quickly took out his katana and fought off Iweso's attack. Iweso, with the help of Dayton, created huge stones and threw them at Naruto. The Uzumaki cut huge boulders with a katana. The katana was imbued with lightning chakra. Raiba appeared behind Naruto and tried to hit him. The Uzumaki turned sharply and slammed her into a tree, hitting her head and knocking her out. Iweso, you will answer for her. Dayton's stone fist, the right side of the hand turned into stone. Iweso found himself in front of Naruto with one jerk, and he wanted to strike. Uzumaki stopped his fist with one hand. Looking at him, Iwazu was shocked. Uzumaki's appearance had changed. His eyes were fox-like, and on his head there were black ears with red tips. They didn't tell me that he has this regime, Iwazu said to himself. The Uzumaki clenched his fist with all his might, Iweso, and the crunching of bones was heard. Creating a small bolt of lightning on his right hand, he touched Iweso. Thanks for listening to my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Sayonara, see you in the next video.